Yes, good. All right. So it's not going to be that easy. So we're not just going to go straight down and go down in a straight line. That would be too easy. So we're obviously doing some kind of zigzag correction. There's no flat correction here. It's a zigzag. And I'm trying to figure out how it could play out. So I'm just thinking to myself, from top to bottom, let's just count these waves. So from top to bottom A, bottom to top B, top to bottom C, bottom to top A, top to bottom B, bottom to top C. Just trying to stay consistent with the waves. So just following that consistency, top to bottom, A, now this is the question. How does this correct? So there's only two options here, I think. A, I don't know. How is this going to look like? Or you'd have to do this. You literally would have to do this. This is what you'd have to do. Inverse head and shoulders, like that. So you'd have to swing failure this range low, push up, break that some sort of neckline, and create some kind of inverse head and shoulders pattern here for the next impulse, or for the beginning, which is there. Or we break down, we have an SFP, which is only really a nice long opportunity for scalpers, and then it just another push down. Now this one we don't know. This one we don't know how it would be. A 1-to-1 would make sense, but I don't know. I can't tell. So I'm kind of thinking there's two options here to complete based on the way I've counted, which is from top to bottom, bottom to top, 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 top to bottom. So I'm expecting another bottom to top to bottom. One more kind of corrective ABC to get to where we're going. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm thinking right now, just based on the structure and just also based on the waves, because we are looking at some kind of WXY, ABC, ABC, ABC. So based on that idea, I'm thinking we might be able to do some kind of fib time actually as well. I'm not sure which pivot to use here. I'm not sure which pivot to use because there's three, maybe the middle one. There's three pivots. Unless I choose the 3-day chart. Probably the first one then. Okay, let me use the first one. So let me just get rid of these ABCs now, because we don't need them, because it's pretty clear what I was trying to explain. Let me just hide that trend line. Based on this, actually it's quite interesting, because you can do a 1-to-1 on this as well. If that's the pivot, if that's the W and that's the X, and we're looking at a zigzag, then we can also do a 1-to-1 to there. Okay, which would bring us to 1-to-1 would bring us to here, just underneath the range low. So that would not be a failed auction if we did a 1-to-1 on that. And if you angle it correctly, let me just get rid of this trade idea. Where is it? Let me just get rid of that. Let me get rid of this extension. Just get rid of these now. So kind of this is our target. This red line is our wave 3 trend line. Yeah. See that? This is just a channel, but it's really a trend line. So it's a wave 3 trend line. You'd expect that trend line to hold. You wouldn't expect to lose the trend line. Okay. And based on my WXY idea with multiple ABCs completing a zigzag, if these are the two pivots, ABC, 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 an extended push down would bring us perfectly to our high volume node here, but that's extended down to here, really pushing further down, a little bit further down. I'm not sure, could you fake out this trend line? Possibly. I'm not sure. That would be a 1-to-1. I imagine 1-to-1s are going to be too easy. I'm thinking a 1-to-1 is going to be way too easy, because I think at the lows people are going to get extremely bearish, especially if we lose the range low, and so you'll probably get a bit of a push down into the extension, and then do you lose the trend line to really fake people out? Yeah, that's possible as well. There's a lot of possibilities in how it can play out here, and to really get people bearish, you lose the trend line, you overextend, but all you're really doing is just coming into some horizontal levels of support. I don't know. So anyway, let's take a look at time. Time is important too. Okay, which pivot do I take? Again, it's quite subjective. I'll take the high pivot to the low, to the high. Okay, so that's 1 fib time idea. So that would be from there. So in the weekend, nice little drop. not sure. It's too far, I think. I think it's too far. You kind of want it to be complete by Sunday the 12th of May. You kind of want the ABC to be done by there. That would be perfect. Right there. That 1-to-1. So just over 1-to-1 into the high volume node on the trend line on a 1-to-1 fib time. From these pivots. It's basically there. But you're still gonna SFP the low here. I just want it to happen really now, so we can go up like that. Something like that. I don't know. If the fib time moves across, kind of come up. Let's do it on the latest. Let's do it on the latest. Slightly higher. Tuesday, Sunday. I think Sunday makes more sense actually. Maybe doing it by days is too accurate. Maybe we need to do it by 3 days. Same pivots. Yeah, that would be fine. There. Something like that. Basically what you're trying to do here on a slightly lower time frame is actually we are trying to create some kind of ABC to complete this last zigzag, and then we don't really know where this is going to land. Okay, but I am in my mind, I'm just thinking if this is correct, then it would make sense to come sometime. I don't really like this the last one actually. I prefer earlier. Prefer it a little bit earlier, just because it's the weekend and a lot of things happen. Like on Monday, coming down into that pivot on Monday would make sense. Beginning of the week, come down, and then bam, that's the end, and that would be the correction complete. This obviously doesn't have to go all the way down. It could just do that as well. You know, we don't really know how this is going to play out. So I'm just thinking to myself, ABC, another ABC. And based on that idea, let me just hide that now. W, ABC, last way. Right. This. Oh wow, what's interesting is that Ape has just longed. I'm just getting some bot messages for him now. Maybe because of the SFP of the low. Why is he longed? He's longing everything. Shit. Getting all the notifications. I'll send them to you now. He's longing BTC, ETH, Doge, and and Solana. Why is he longing? Is there a line here? There it is. He's longing that line. That 5-minute exhaustion line. He loves those lines, doesn't he? If he's longing, I'm going to long too. Or at the very least, I'm going to close my shorts. What's Slurf looking like? Yeah, Slurf is into a daily level, huh? So it could be, this could be the end of that first wave correction, the A. Look, Slurf is into a daily level. It's come to the value area low. It's a good place to long, to be honest with you. So let me just actually, I'm in profit on Slurf. I'm going to close it. Or I could just long and just, it'll be a hedge, wouldn't it? Is Slurf showing some strength? It is a little bit. Now I'm just going to take my profit. Trade. We get it. I don't like taking profit. I got stopped out of my whiff after I took profit. Close by. Take that profit out. Take most of it off. And then I'll be looking for a long entry on Slurf. Set to break even. What about my Bitcoin trade? Let me have a look at that one. Have I already taken profit on that? On my Bitcoin short, I already took profit on that. That's fine. Okay, back to Bitcoin. Let's just go back to what I was doing, and then we'll start looking at the local time frame a little bit. Like that. Yeah, so still looking for an ABC here. That's kind of, that would make sense. Some kind of ABC here. And it, you know, it might be anything really. No one really knows how this is going to play out. But that would make sense. And it can be quite a flat ABC here. Like the B can be quite flat. It just has to go and make a high before it takes another dive, a nose dive down to our area of interest. Let me just do this. Let me just hone in these fib times. Where's the value area low? One more attack at the point of control. or the golden pocket. I don't know. I have to have a look at that. All right. So potentially I'm still looking for some kind of corrective move down to this area of interest lower down. The question I think for me And the most important question for me is what happens at the range low. Okay, this is really important. No one really knows what's going to happen until it happens. No one can predict the future. No one can pretend to know what's going to happen at the range low. Okay, we've had 3 attempts at the range low with massive liquidations, and we haven't been able to breach the range low. That's the range low, that pivot there. Basically, that's the range low, and you have the range high, which is all-time high. Okay, so the question is for all of us is, if and when the price gets underneath the range low, what happens? Yeah, do you have a massive liquidation event and you get this kind of move to the downside because you have a crap load of people being liquidated who are highly leveraged, and that's a massive market sell order, and there's not enough limit longs to absorb that market selling, or not enough market buying because shorts are closing at market to absorb that selling? That's question number 1. Or do we have a nice reaction with increasing volume and you have a really good swing failure off the lows? That's number 1. That's like the first kind of question that needs to be answered. We won't know until it happens, and we have to look at the order flow to see the market orders and the reaction. And then if it's a weak reaction, how far down do we go? Yeah, because we have this really important high volume node, so the overall range on the volume profile, and I can't imagine that high volume node is not going to resist the support the price. It hasn't been touched yet. These volume nodes are very important. They're like points of control. They're almost as good as points of control. And then obviously we have this wave 3 trend line, which has been tested once, twice. So we know it's a trend line because it's been touched twice. The second touch confirms the idea of being a trend line, and so naturally you would take the third touch. Yeah, that's your entry. The third touch of this trend line is the correct entry. You wouldn't take the 4th touch. You wouldn't know about the second touch because it wasn't formed yet. And when you have 2 touches on the trend line, you have a trend line, and in the third touch, as long as there's a little bit of confluence with another horizontal level, maybe some other levels like fib levels, plus good timing, then you could take that. That would be your entry. Now you would expect that to be a very high probability trade to enter. Confirmation of that idea would be a really good reaction in your area of interest. And if you do get a swing failure with a weak reaction to head for lower, then the confirmation of this idea would be to find support and get right back above the loss level, which is the range low. Okay, and that's kind of gives you the confirmation that this failed auction, effectively failed auction into the lows, was correct. Yeah, if you have a failed auction into the lows, you would expect the price to get back above the range low and find support back on the range low again before continuing, before going to the upside. So we don't really know if this swing failure is going to react to give us a good enough reaction for one more, for this to be the low if we do take it. If there's not enough, because you can get people take that trade. Yeah, I'll probably take that trade, but I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm going to take my profit as soon as I get my profit, you know, because it's quite risky and it's quite an easy trade to take. If you see a swing failure, you can mark it long, and as soon as you're in profit, you can take your profit or hit the VWAP or something. You can take your profit and not even think about it. So it's quite an easy trade to take if you see a good enough reaction. And the thing is that if you get a lot of people take that trade and they take their profit, which most decent traders will, all decent traders will, then taking profit again is going to pull the price right back down. Okay, then the question is, does it pull it right back down to make another low there? And you're not going to take the second swing failure. You might take the third or the fourth, but not the second one. You'd have to wait, because this is a major level, and you wouldn't take this. You'd have to wait. Then you'd have to wait to see what happens. That being said, you have a very nice area of interest lower down, which is this high volume node. So for people who aren't aware of this high volume node, let me just quickly draw it for you. I'm going to pull it on the higher time frame so people can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to hide my I'm going to hide all of these. Okay, just going to keep those three lines up, right? And so I'm using the Bybit inverse perpetual chart. A lot of the good traders will use this chart. Okay, it is quite personal what people use. What you should always use what works for you. There's never a right and wrong, but this is probably one of the good ones. And if you do an overall range pool on the overall volume on Bybit, yeah, right from the beginning of when this chart began on Bybit back in November 18 or wherever it was, yeah, to the current time frame, you can see the volume profile, and you can see that we have a really nice juicy high volume node here. See that? And I've marked it out. It's not an exact line, it's a small area. And then you've obviously got the value area high, which is also another high volume node. And then you've got the point of control, which is all the way down here at 9,000 whatever. Okay, that's why that's important, because you have a lot of volume at that node right there, and we've crossed it. We haven't actually come back to test it. You know, when you look at the profile, you can see that it reacted for a day, and then the price just went through, and so we haven't actually come back to test it. And that would be expected. It wouldn't be unexpected for the price to be able to do that, to pass a level and then come back to test it. Something like that's quite an important level. And so therefore, I think that's a really important level. And I don't see why the price doesn't react there to get a good reaction. I don't see why that won't happen. So if you coincide that with that trend line that I've got, which is this kind of wave free trend line, I missed it. This trend line, I think you've got quite a good high probability setup if we do kind of come into that level, that high volume node with that trend line, after we've had a little bit of a after we lose the range low for a failed auction. And that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. You can't really imagine the price go lower until you lose that high volume node, yeah, because even though people are focused on price, losing volume levels are a little bit more difficult, yeah, especially these levels where there's been a lot of volume put at that level. Okay, and the reason why this is so important, I'll explain. Because there are bearish people who shorted at that level, yeah, and they've been shorting this whole range. And as the price comes back into that level, that's where they're going to take their profit. Okay, that's the level. They might have begun shorting there just blindly, They might have just shorted this whole range, been shorting this whole range without necessarily having a tight stop. Getting a bit of packet loss right now. Don't know why. Sorry, they're getting a bit of a packet loss. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And so naturally that's going to be their place that they take their profit. So you're going to have quite nice buy pressure when the price comes right back into that level. A lot of people who are short with big shorts, they're not going to they're not going to not take profit at that level. That's why it's quite a good place to long, okay, or to look for a reaction. And the other reason why it could be a good place is because if you do swing failure and we lose that level, you're going to get a lot of people closing their longs and shorting. Effectively, they're shorting in the lows, and so you could trap a lot of shorts at the lows if there's quite high volume at the lows. So I think this is probably the best setup, but I am kind of expecting some kind of potentially another ABC down here, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. If we do have if I've counted this correctly, yeah, and I'm basically counting this from high to low, yeah, so A, B, C, I'm doing from high to lows, high to low to high to low to high to low to high to low. So again, it's the same idea. A, B, C, A, B, C. So I'm looking for an A, some kind of A, B, C. Now, the other idea would be that we are putting them in a low here. We're not going down, okay? And that's the thing, like no one really knows, yeah? I think everything is looking bearish, but it doesn't mean we're going down. This is Bitcoin. When people get bearish, suddenly the price goes up. Whatever happens, I do think that we probably need to put in another ABC. If we're in the A now, and if we're not going to go lower, then you'd probably expect, I mean, if it was going to be an inverse head and shoulders, you will be taking the lows here, okay, and maybe you'd take the high there, and you'll be forming some kind of massive inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Get people bearish, take out the high, put in a higher high after you put in a lower low, and then that's as a possibility. Or, you know, nothing really, just higher lows here, just another higher low, lower high, and actually what you're forming here is more like some kind of tightening triangle for a breakout, you know, some kind of tightening triangle like that. Still the same idea, low to high, high to low, yeah, but rather than go all the way down, you're actually just forming some kind of triangle structure here, still completing the same idea, A, B, B, C, A, B, C, and then on time, possibly on time, is going to be exactly the same pivot, which is going to be Monday the 13th, thereabouts, that kind of the end of the second week of May, for a move to the upside, which will begin the next wave. That will be the next explosive wave, potentially. And then if you did have this kind of triangle idea, you probably, with the C, you probably wouldn't come down that far. There'd be quite a heavy anticipation. And so effectively, you'd be kind of pushing up to explode. You're kind of forming an inverse head and shoulders, but not really with a big head. It's like smaller head and then smaller shoulder. It's a different kind of idea. So there's a few things on the table. It is looking bearish. I am expecting some sort of B to the upside, and I think the lowest target for me, the most perfect target would be here. Fake out auction, failed auction of the lows. Okay, but I'm happy with this too. I'm not unhappy with this kind of idea too. What you'll get is a lot of people shorting this lower part of this range, and that's when you can finally get some kind of squeeze to the upside. Okay, so potentially we're about to put in a pivot for an A to go up now. Potentially, yeah. Potentially we could be going up, even though people think we're going down, we could be going up. All right, so I'm going to save those two ideas and we'll see what happens. Okay, rename, let's call it triangle squeeze. Okay. That's that. Just kind of zooming in on the local time frame. Okay, we're back above this pivot from the low from yesterday. So it's not, I mean, it's weak, but it's not that weak. You can't be that weak if you're coming back above those pivots. Usually when you're making new pivots, if you had continuation, the price will find resistance to go right back down. Yeah, so the fact that we're back above that pivot, we're still in some kind of bearish structure. If you look at the structure, you can clearly see that we're putting in lower highs, we're putting in lower lows. Yeah, so even if you are going to long, you know, you're not necessarily expecting that structure to change. You would be expecting continuation, so you have to be aware of that. But you know, it is very possible that we squeeze all of these shorts and push right back up. You know, it's very possible that the low of that end of that A is being put in now. And it's very possible that we squeeze right back up to try and put in a lower high there for the last leg, which would be the final C correction, which is kind of sometime in the beginning of May, end of the first week or beginning of the second week, sometime in the second week of May. Okay, so I'm not just expecting this to go down. Yeah, and look, we've already taken the liquidity off the previous day low. Yeah, we're kind of trading right back above that pivot. It's weak, but it's not crazy. It's not like, oh my god, it's going to zero weak. Yeah, last week's candle was pretty bearish. Yeah, but you know, those candles can easily be reversed. You can end up with a nice green candle here this week. It's very possible, and you could form a nice juicy weekly level right there. It's very possible to create that idea. So I don't necessarily think we're just gonna go down. Yeah, you got to be aware of that. It doesn't mean altcoins are gonna pump. Yeah, because altcoins only really pump when Bitcoin is finding strength and doesn't look so weak. Yeah, so when you look at this whole kind of price action, you see that Bitcoin has been weak. We've had 4 weeks of red, and we're already kind of pushing to the downside. So you have to bear that in mind, and also you have to bear in mind that the monthly candle closes very soon. We're in April, so there's only 30 days in April. So tomorrow is end of month. We could see a little push up before we see a push down, before we see a push up. You know, like it could always, the next month is the beginning, is a new candle. So first this candle has to end, then we could see a little push up, and that might happen because usually red candles in the Bitcoin bull market are the ones that people buy, and so you might see a little bit of buy pressure at the end of this red candle. Yeah, I really find it unlikely that we're going to see sell pressure on a red candle in the Bitcoin bull market after a monthly candle in the first instance. Yeah. And so here we've had red candles. There's one. You see it's followed by green. That's the beginning. That's the only one that was followed by red. Okay. And you could get a push up before you get a push down, before you get another push up. You know, you could get, I don't necessarily think it's just going to go down after we end this month tomorrow. All right. We may not see any kind of movement until the month ends, but yeah, I'm not like, even though I'm quite bearish at the moment, I'm not like crazy bearish. It just means that I'm still expecting the correction to continue, and this isn't over yet. Okay. Am I shorting? I took a short yesterday. I took profit, and that was smart because I was bearish and I was looking to short that rise, and naturally you take your profit and you move on to the next trade. Now actually looking at it, I'm feeling a little bit bullish. Actually, I'm feeling a little bit bullish, but it's only locally bullish. I'm not feeling overall bullish because I still think it's possible that we come right down, take the range low, and come into that level. Yeah. And you just have to see what happens until we see the reaction at key areas. You just don't know. You just can't, no one can this whole structure looks a bit weak for the bulls. And so you have to see how it plays out and what forms as time passes. Right now it looks pretty weak, but if you suddenly see the structure change, you know, to form something like this, which is what I was saying, you know, then you might actually think, actually, this isn't looking too bad now. Yeah, this isn't as weak as I thought. This is now actually looking quite good to potentially break out. You see? So right now it's looking pretty miserable. Or if you do go up to go down structurally, then actually that's not too bad. If you created that idea to find a reaction at my area of interest to go up, you know, then actually it doesn't look too bad. It actually starts to look good, because even though right now it's looking quite limp, you know, then it actually looks amazing. It looks pretty, it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Why was I so bearish? And so it's hard to see how structure can develop, but just because we've got a lot of reds, I don't really think this is now going to suddenly do this. I think that's very unlikely, and so you wouldn't expect it, you wouldn't plan for that. Right, that's kind of my my thoughts on Bitcoin. I'm welcome to receive any kind of feedback or any other kind of ideas. I have been looking at the Twitter, and I have been looking at other people's kind of ideas about the future. I'm not closed to listening to other people and seeing what other people have to say. I'm not fond of this guy, but I mean, it's interesting because he's saying, what's he saying? Oh, he did say it before he deleted it. Where did he put it? Oh god, here it is. Same update as per the last few weeks. 60k to hold for him to remain long. Yeah. So for whatever reason, he's determined that 60k is an important level, and as long as the price is above 60k, this guy's going to stay long. That's almost why I think it's possible that we have a failed auction to shake out people like this, get them to close their longs, and then to go right back up. So if he's like, this guy's got quite a big following, quite a lot of people follow this guy, and so if all of these people are thinking the same as this guy, listening to this guy, then it would make perfect sense for the market makers to get them to close all their positions before the price goes up. Yeah, so you have to be aware of these sorts of things. This guy that I like, what's his name again? This guy. I like this guy. He gives some different ideas about the charts. Again, he's got a very similar idea for some kind of failed auction of the lows. I like his idea. He only posted that 2 hours ago. So I talked about this yesterday. So I beat him to the gun. I didn't get my idea of him. But you see, he's kind of like copying me. It's not really copying me. I think it's just that when you have lots of people thinking the same thing, then it's very possible that this guy's got quite a big following too. Look, 714k. So he's been at it a while, and he has a very similar idea. Failed auction of the lows, not an SFP. Failed auction of the lows. I'm still not seeing the ABC that I'm thinking of in his idea. And then what obviously he's got some lower levels of interest, but he hasn't actually indicated why, where, when, or how the price would get there. He's just thinking this. So it's something to bear in mind. And then what did he say? He said the FOMC is on Wednesday, is likely to cause the markets to correct before it reverse back up. I don't know. Who knows? Like, it's all speculative. And then who else is interesting? This guy is quite interesting. If anyone doesn't follow him, I like this guy. I think he's one of the smarter people out there. He's a really good trader, actually, if you ever follow him. Again, he's got some similar ideas. This was a few days ago. He's looking for an ABC idea to take the range. He's looking at a swing failure here. I'm thinking more failed auction, but anything can happen, and that's why you have to just wait for the reaction. So if you want to kind of follow some people who actually have some good ideas, this is a guy who always looks at the order flow, and he analyzes the charts quite well. He's got quite a big following as well, like 51. You don't ever see his face, so who knows. This guy's a trader, though, you know, like it's one thing to trade, it's another thing to invest. And what people are trying to do, most people are trying to just look for the best places to buy and hold for the long duration of the bull market. Not many people are trading. Not many people that come and listen to these people or my streams are trading. You know, they're long-term hodlers or long-term buyers. Yeah, the traders aren't really out there. They kind of keep in their small closets doing their own thing. Now this guy, who I follow as well, wherever he is, oh, I don't know, it's 8:31. Is it 8:31? I'm getting a little bit of disconnect, but I'm back. Don't know what's going on, apologies. So this guy, he's a high risk trader. He's been longing to high heaven. Okay, look, he puts $10 soon on whiff. That was April 25th. Yesterday I was shorting with. You just got to be aware that these guys are using very low leverage cross margin. Yeah, see, cross 1x. Yeah, you see that. So don't ever get caught into this kind of trading if you don't have extremely low leverage with a large account. You see, he's using cross 4x, cross 4.5x. That means his liquidation point is extremely low. Look, you see here, his ETH liquidation point is at $697. His Bitcoin estimation point, liquidation point is $41,000. And obviously on Solana, he doesn't have one. It's like 0. Yeah. So for these kinds of people, they just long the dips. They probably just keep on buying the dips. Their liquidation point comes up a little bit. They have very, very wide stock market losses and it's very likely he's using Bybit. Obviously he's using Bybit. It's very likely that he's not going to get stopped out, even if there's a liquidation run by the market makers. Yeah, so just be aware, you can't, it's a different type of trading. You have to have real good guts of steel to be able to do this, because sometimes you can be down 5-6 figures on unrealized gains before it actually goes up. And this isn't for everyone. This kind of trading is not for everyone. I don't recommend it. But you know, in a bull market, people are confident that the market is bullish and people are buying, and therefore they have the confidence to do this kind of low leverage, high risk trading. Basically, that's what it is. You can make a lot of money doing that idea. So in terms of Bitcoin, if people want to accumulate altcoins, they should, because we are in the next 2 weeks coming to the end potentially of the correction. Yeah, and it's always hard to pick a bottom, and so naturally the strategy has to be to dollar cost average in, scale in, and take a chunk out of every red candle. That's basically the best strategy when it comes to accumulating altcoins.